Flip to Freedom, episode number 18. Hello again, this is Sean Terry from the Flip to Freedom podcast. I'd like to welcome you to episode number 18. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how to make $10,000 in the next 30 days. Now, I am here to help you escape the 9-to-5 and live the lifestyle of your dreams by learning how you can make an absolute fortune flipping properties in your spare time, even if you're brand new, you're just getting started today, and you have absolutely no cash, no credit, or no experience. Now, there are a lot of different facets to real estate. Now, if you're listening to this podcast for the very first time, our 100% focus is how you can generate revenue in quick turn real estate, how you can make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in 30, 45, 60 days working around your job. Now, I have done, the whole gamut. I've owned rentals, I've bought land, I've owned commercial properties, owned rental properties, the entire thing. And when I got started flipping properties, first off, to generate revenue. Once you generate revenue and you generate confidence, then you can start moving in to the other areas of real estate. And that's what's great about real estate because, you look at Donald Trump, he has, $100 million buildings. And then we're talking about flipping, $50,000 properties. It's still real estate and it's in the same arena, but it's just a different dollar amount. So what this show focuses on is how to get cash in your pocket as fast as humanly possible using no money, no credit, and having no experience. Now, if you want to learn about rental properties and cash flow analysis and expense to cash flow ratio and all that type of stuff, and more well-versed about other real estate aspect, then I can recommend two of the best podcasts that I listen to regularly. And the first one, if you're looking for rental properties, is a gentleman by the name of Jason Hartman. And he is great because he owns rental properties. He sells rental properties. He's very knowledgeable about that aspect of the business all over the entire country. They have a report that goes through in detail about different markets that they like to invest in and why. I recommend that highly. So if you're listening to this and you want to learn about rental properties, I would, if you want to learn how to make cash in real estate, then you are at the perfect spot. If you want to learn how to make build wealth through owning a portfolio of rental properties and get $100, $200, $300, $500 of cash flow, then I would recommend Jason Hartman. The other podcast I'd like to recommend to you is the Real Estate Guys Radio. You can just search that into iTunes. Those guys, I listen to them. They're great. They've been doing this for a long time, and they have some great interviews on there that they do with people, and they have a lot of in-depth information. Great. I love listening to those guys. So I just wanted to let you know because we have a ton of new listeners that are listening to this podcast, and I want you so you know exactly what we're focusing on. Now, like I said, what's great about real estate is you can do quick turn real estate, and you can make, and then you can turn around and when we're dealing with looking for motivated sellers, you can sometimes find some of the best deals that you can keep yourself instead of quick turning and keep it in your own inventory. One of the hardest things about real estate is finding the deal, especially if you're looking for rental properties. But if you know exactly how to go out and market for motivated sellers, then you can build your own portfolio without having to buy a bank-owned property, without having to buy a property at the courthouse steps, or having to buy a marked up property from a wholesaler. So that's another thing that's great about it. Now, in this episode, we are going to discuss how to make $10,000 in the next 30 days with no cash, no credit, no experience. And we are going to talk about how to find the deal. We're going to talk about how to negotiate it. We're going to talk about how to write up the contract, what paperwork is needed, what you'll need for your title escrow agent, what to tell them what to do, how to sell the property super fast, and how to collect your check. At the end of this episode, I got an awesome quote for you, so definitely stick around for that. And next week, first off, in the last week's episode, at the end, I told you I had an awesome interview with a gentleman. I set that up, and we have that for next week. He's traveling outside the, I think it was in Montana, or he's been traveling all over, so I happened to get him. He's extremely busy, and I am so excited to bring him to you. But we are going to talk about real estate market prediction, his prediction on the real estate market. And he wrote a book that I'm going to tell you next week. And then in that book, everything that he wrote so far has come true on his prediction up to this date. So, I mean, it is spine chilling. All I can tell you that to do is go to the iTunes store and subscribe to this podcast. It's for free. And then you can get this automatically downloaded in your iTunes, and then you can make sure you don't miss next week's episode. All right. Now, don't forget, you can go to my website. It's flip2freedom, flip2freedom.com. You can go there, and I have on the front page, you'll see a video of me, and you can put your email address, and I will email you a 129-page blueprint on exactly how to quit your job in 19 weeks or less by quick turning real estate, by flipping properties in your spare time with no cash, no credit, no experience. So you can get that for free. It's detailed. I go through everything. We've got unbelievable reviews. I mean, actually, when you put your email address, you'll be taken to another page, and you would not believe all the comments from people that are just raving about this. So I definitely greatly appreciate that. Now, let's get into exactly how to make $10,000 in the next 30 days. Now, first off, let's talk about the big picture. Okay, the big picture. Now, right now, and next week when I do the interview, we're going to talk about market indicators and recent market news in the housing market data that came out and stuff like that, and how that pertains to what we're doing here. But for right now, on the bigger picture, there are people out there that tons of people that owe way more than their property's worth. So they're destined to either hang on to the property and just continue paying it, do a short sale on the property, or let it go to foreclosure. But there's also another massive amount of people out there that either owe at what the property's worth or slightly less. They have anywhere from 3 to 5% equity in the property. Not a lot of equity. So when they turn around and try to sell the property, they're either going to make nothing, or they're going to have to come to the table with cash, a closing table with cash, to basically just get out of that property. So there is a huge amount of people across the country that are in that type of situation where they have little to no equity in their property. Now, there's also a huge group of people out there that have cash, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30,000, but don't have the credit to qualify for a bank loan. Now, talking to one of my recent one of my loan officers that we do deals with and refer business to, they were telling me that it is amazing because the tightening of the credit standards today, and the loan basically criteria to get a loan in this market today is harder today than it was back in 1990. So we are looking at basically a market right now where you have to be golden to be able to get a loan. I mean, you have to have a 750 to 800 credit score. You have to have documented income. If you're self-employed, you have to have 2 years tax returns. So it's very difficult to get a loan in this market, and there's a select few of the public that can actually qualify for a loan. So there is definitely a credit problem in this market right now. So that being said, we have a lot of people that have little or no equity, and we have a lot of people that have cash, but they don't have the credit or the income. Maybe they're self-employed. They don't have 2 years of documented income where they can qualify for that loan. But they want to move. They want to get a house, but they just can't do it. Okay, so how's this come into play? Because basically what we're going to do is we're going to match the two together. We're going to market for motivated sellers, and we are going to find a property where little or no equity, and we're going to negotiate with them to keep the existing loan in place, buy the property subject to, give them a couple $1,000s cash, And then what we're going to do is we're going to assign that contract to a buyer that has the down payment, but maybe not the credit, that can, in turn, buy the property. And we can assign that for a profit. Now, let's talk about the first step here. First step is locating the motivated sellers. We got to find these motivated sellers that are in this situation. Okay. The first thing is you want to make friends with a realtor. And what you want to do is you want to have them do a search within the MLS. And in that search, you're basically looking for expired listings within the past 30, 60, 90 days. Now, depending on what city or county you're in, it could be thousands. Like if you do that in Maricopa County, I mean, you're talking thousands upon thousands. So you can narrow that down to a specific zip code if you want. You can narrow it down to a specific city or county or whatever you want to do. But you can narrow that down so you don't have, 50,000 expired listings in the past 30, 60 days. So you're looking for expired listings. You're also looking for houses that need little to no work, pretty houses, what we call them, preferably built between the year 2000 and 2008. Remove all the short sales. You don't want to deal with you don't want to have over-indebted property. You don't want to deal with short sales. Now, so that's basically the criteria you're going to give to your agent, and they're going to be able to pull all the expired listings for you and email you a list. And it'll probably be it could be in a PDF format, or it could just be in like an MLS link that they have with all the different properties on there. And then you can kind of go through there and look at which ones have the highest days on market. The higher the days on market after it expired, there will be more motivation for the seller there. Now, why are these people motivated? Now, I don't know about you, but if you ever sold a house before and you have a house on the market, and maybe you have people come into the house and they're walking through and they're looking and there's no offers. And another week passes and, 4 or 5 people come through on a weekend. There's open houses that's done. There's flyers that's putting out that the realtor puts out there. They put it on the internet. They do open houses, no offers. Now, after 100 days, after 200 days, after a year, and there's no offers, and then the listing expires, do you know the seller mindset is like, I've got to get rid of this property, and they kind of like give up, and they just say, well, I'm stuck, and no one has given them an option of how they can basically get out of this property. So that's why they're motivated, highly motivated, and they're open to looking at different opportunities to be able to sell their property. Now, when you're marketing to these expired listings, now think about this. You're going to ask for this list. You're going to get a list, and there's going to be the property addresses on there. You can look at the pictures. Let's say they're built from 2000 to 2008. Now, you can pick, the highest days on market that might fit. And you could, if you want, you can go cross-reference to the tax records and see what type of loan they have on the property. But I wouldn't really worry about it. You can if you want. But then pick, 50 to 100 of these houses in this particular area, and then what you want to do is you're going to market to them, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to send them a yellow letter. Now, a yellow letter is a marketing piece that we use that we have an unbelievable response rate. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it. You basically get 11 to 15% response rate. So if you send out 100 letters, you're going to get, anywhere from 11 to 15 calls. You send 1,000 letters, you're going to get, 150 to 110 calls. I mean, you'll get a lot of calls. Your phone will be ringing. So what you can do is you can send the yellow letter. Now, if you want an example of the yellow letter, it's in my book. You can download for free the book at flip2freedom.com if you'd like. Or you can Google yellow letter example and click on the first couple websites, and they'll give you an example of what the yellow letter looks like. Now, you can write this yourself. It's basically just a yellow padded paper with red ink, and it's very simple. It just says, hello. So-and-so, I'd like to buy your house at so-and-so address. Please give me a call at so-and-so number. And make sure you put a local number on there. And And also, it must be in an invitation-style envelope. It must have a real stamp on it. It must be in red ink. You put their address in red ink on the front, and on the back of the envelope, the flap there, you put your address, and then you put a first-class stamp on it, and you send that out to them. Now, they will call you, and they will respond to this letter, because first off, think about it. They've been trying to sell their house for 300 days, and then now they're going to get this handcrafted letter in the mail from you that's going to say, hey, I want to buy your house. Don't you think that would prompt them to call? They'd be curious, wouldn't they? So what they're going to do is they will call you. Now, make sure you do not lick the envelope. Make sure you fold the back of the envelope in and don't lick it. Just fold it open. Why? I don't know, but you know what? It works, and it works like crazy. All right. So now, taking the calls. People will be curious. They will be curious. They will wondering, why the heck are you sending me this letter? Now, what you want to do is control the conversation. And typically what happens is people call me up and they say, hey, I just got this, funny little note in the mail saying you want to buy my house. What's the situation? I just say, hey, listen, I'm basically looking for properties in your specific area, and I was sending letters out in that area, and your house must have been in the area that I was sending letters to, and I'm looking for properties either to buy and sell, or I'm looking for properties that I can use for rental purposes. Are you interested in selling your house? And then you turn the question right back around on them, and they go, well, yeah, I might be interested in selling the house. What are you offering? I said, no, I got to look at the house and see what the condition of the property is. Can you tell me about it? And they're going to come back and say, oh, sure, I'll tell you about it. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath. It's a 2,300 square feet. It's a fairly good condition. And then you're going to say, well, how is air conditioning? How big is the lot? What's the biggest problems with the property? And you can start asking questions about it, and the goal is to build rapport with them on the phone, but also try to find out as much information you can about the property and set the appointment. So you want to control the conversation, and then you want to set the appointment. That's the main goal, is set the appointment so you can go there, and also test motivation. Now, if someone's not motivated, don't set the appointment, because it's a waste of time. I'll tell you that right now. And the way you tell motivation is you ask them a simple question. All you do is ask them, say, listen, if we do come to agreement and I could buy the house, how fast would you like to close? And they're going to say, if they say, well, I'm in no rush, my kids are in school right now, so I wouldn't even be ready to move for another 6 months, that's not motivation. And if it was me, I said, well, why don't I follow up with you in 6 months then? Because I'm looking for something I can get into immediately. But if they say, listen, hey, if we can come to an agreement, and everything works, I'd sell in, tomorrow if I could. That is motivation. That's where you want to make the appointment. Okay. So now, that was step 3, taking the calls. Step 4 is going on the appointment. Now, what do you bring on this appointment? First thing you want to bring is a residential purchase contract. You can get your residential purchase contract from your local board of realtors. Use the residential purchase contract that all the other realtors use. And go back to my episode number, I think it's number, let me see, what number is that? I think it's number 13. And that is episode on contract clauses. Contract clauses you must have in your contract. So go back to that one. So basically, the bottom line is you want to have an appraisal clause in there that you will do an appraisal on the property, or contract is subject to partner's approval. That is a contract clause in there. But listen to that episode. I go through in detail. Just go to the website at flip2freedom.com and go on the podcast tab, and you can find it in there. So you want a residential purchase contract. You want a letter of authorization. That allows you to talk to their bank and get payoffs on the existing loan on the property. You want to have a list of comparable sales of the area, so you know what the property is worth, at or what it's worth, and then a camera so you can take a bunch of pictures. Okay. Now, what do you do on the appointment? Now, okay, so think about this. You've taken the call and you set the appointment. Now you have a folder and you have your purchase contract, your letter of authorization, you got your camera with you got your comparable sales, you're in your car, and now you're going over to their house. And guess what? If this is your first appointment, I guarantee your heart is going to be beating and you will be nervous. But that's okay. Guess what? Because once you've been on as many appointments with motivated sellers as I've been on, then you'll get it. When you do the second one, you'll get it. You'll feel more comfortable. You'll feel more confident. But you've got to go on that first appointment to get over that hump of that fear. So what you're going to do is you're going to go on the appointment. The number one goal when you're meeting a motivated seller is you want to build rapport. And I say this over and over. It's in my book. I've talked about it. Build rapport. Rapport is key to get them to like you and trust you. And you do that by asking questions. How do you build rapport? You ask questions. You ask questions and you show interest, sincere interest in them. And I tell a story about where I went in and met with this motivated seller, and I walked in the house, and he had boats all over the place, boats everywhere. I mean, it was incredible. There was handcrafted wooden boats, and there was probably 500, I don't know, a couple hundred of them all over the walls. So when I first walked in, I was like, wow, that's incredible. Where'd you get all these boats? And guess what? He was passionate about those boats. He was talking and he was excited and his eyes was light up. His wife's eyes lit up and he was excited. And that was, and we happened to build rapport because we were talking about boats and I showed a sincere interest in it. It was very interesting. So, you want to build rapport. So you're walking in the house, you go to the front door, you ring the doorbell, you go in, hey, how you doing? You're looking for things inside the house that you can build rapport. It's pictures of the kids, it's family pictures, it's antiques, something that you can grab onto, that you can build a rapport with them to get them talking about themselves. Okay? Now, when they're gonna start talking, they're gonna say, okay, great, let's see the house. So you're gonna start walking around the house. And basically what you're looking for is major repair items. You want to look at the carpet. If the carpet's all stained and there's stuff all over it, well, obviously it's going to need either new carpet or it's going to need a steam cleaner. But look around. Is there any holes in the drywall? Is there things when you walk in the house, it's going to go, wow, that's going to need a lot of work. I always look at AC. Those are big concern. The roof, for sure, is a big concern. You want to ask those questions. You want to ask when you're walking around. So, how's the AC? When was it recently replaced? Now, in Phoenix here we have AC. Now, if you're in Philly, well, you might not have AC. You might have heat, right? I guess. I don't know. So, whatever you have in there. So you want to ask about those main, like the heat or the AC, or ask about the their roof for sure. The plumbing and electric. When was that last updated? And ask them, say, listen, what is the best thing about this house? What do you love about this house? And they'll go, blah, blah, blah. They'll tell you all about the things, what they love about the house. And then say, great, what's the worst thing about this house? And 9 times out of 10, they will tell you, well, we had a leak over here when the rain came in and blah, 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 blah. And they'll tell you all the things that are worth. Now, just write that down and notate it. Now, remember, the goal is you're looking for a house that needs minimal work because in essence, you're going to be selling it to a retail buyer who's going to buy it, and they don't want to go in and put $50,000 worth of work in the house. They want to walk in and have it be able pretty and be move-in ready, or maybe even do a little bit of work on the house. Okay, one of the final questions you want to ask when you're walking is, why are you selling? So I used to walk around. I'm talking. So what makes you want to sell? And make sure you ask that question after you build a certain level of rapport. Don't ask it when you first walk in, but ask it after you build. And what happens, you're going to get deep into the motivation of why they want to sell the house. And it could be to where my husband got transferred. I just did a contract on a property last week. Husband got transferred to Las Vegas. I got to sell. He's up there with the kids. I'm back here with the house. I got to get out of here. We got to sell, and we got to sell quick. Okay, and I asked the question, and I said, so what makes you want to sell? And she just told me. So asking that question is great to getting to the internal motivation and just listen and say, really, well, why is that? What happened? Why did he move to Las Vegas? Oh, he got his job transferred up there, and he's got your kids. Yeah, he's got the kids up there. How the heck did he do that? Well, he's got a nanny, and he goes, go through all these different things of why the motivation's there. Okay, now you've walked through the house, you've built rapport with them. Now you're going to sit down and you're going to talk numbers. Okay. Don't get nervous. It's okay. Because if you've built a rapport and you have an understanding about the house, when you're sitting down talking numbers, it'll be a lot easier. Always go to the kitchen table if you can. If they have a kitchen table. If they don't, couch is fine. But sit down and then you want to talk about the numbers. Now, what you want to do is first off to say, hey, listen, I understand it's been on the market. It was on the market for, 175 days. What do you think is the biggest reason it didn't sell? And they're going to say, well, the market, it's terrible, it's, this and that. They're going to have all the reasons of why they think it didn't sell. And then now it goes into, basically, showing them comparable sales of what's going on in the market, right now. The market could potentially continue to decline. And then they could owe less than the property's worth and be really stuck. And I started, when I'm asking them, showing them comparable sales and talking about why they believe their house didn't sell, and saying, so let me ask a question. Well, where are you going to move to? And maybe it's transferring to Las Vegas, or maybe it's, going somewhere else, or maybe do a house with a lesser payment, that they can afford. But they'll start talking to them and say, listen, well, let's say you're moving. How much cash do you need to move? And they're going to say, well, I need, $1,500, maybe $3,000 to move. Okay, make sure you notate that down, that they need that. And then when we start talking about, when we start negotiating about leaving the loan in place, and what I typically do is go in and sit down and say, listen, I obviously understand that there's a massive credit crisis in the market right here today, and if I was going to pay cash for this house, I would have to be, let's say theoretically the house is worth $100,000. Listen, if I was going to pay cash for it, if I was going to go get a hard money loan, or I was going to pay cash for this right now, I would have to pay $40,000 to $50,000 for this house, because that's what I'm buying in this market right now. Because obviously we're in a pretty bad real estate depression. But what I would like to do with you guys is now, I understand that you owe, on the house, let's say $90,000 on the house. The house is worth $100,000, so you literally have, maybe, a little bit. But guess what? If you're going to list it on the market, which you did, and you turn around and sell it at the $100,000, by the time you pay realtor commissions and closing costs and fees, you're going to be literally left with nothing. So what if I could give you your couple $1,000s, but we leave the existing loan in place for the term of 3 years, and then just be quiet and just kind of see what they say. So you're basically explaining to them of what the situation is about leaving the loan in place, and they're going to ponder and think about it, and they go, well, how exactly does that work? Well, what we'll do is we'll buy the property subject to the existing loan. Now, the loan will stay in your name, the deed will be in our name. And basically what we can do is we can give you cash, and then what we're going to do is we're going to have a title company that's going to service your loan. It'll be a servicing company. And we're going to make payments to the servicing company. The servicing company is going to make payments to your loan. It's going to be audited. We're both going to get statements, and it'll all be taken care of. Now, let's say theoretically we do not make payments on the house, then the servicing company will initiate a foreclosure, and then the property will revert back to you, and you can take the property back as the beneficiary of the note and deed of trust. Now, you're going to wrap that existing note. Okay, they're going to do a wrap, and the servicing company will be able to service that wrapped note and deed of trust. I mean, we've done hundreds of these type of deals, and they work phenomenal. Because it gives someone like myself, or even for rental properties, even for selling it, the ability to buy properties with seller financing in place. Now, all right. So now you have. Now let's say, for an example, you're talking to them, and they're basically they say, well, after you give them your spiel of what you're going to do, and they say, well, I want to think about it. I don't know. It's a little bit different for us. This is a little bit unconventional. We want to think about it. So they say, okay, that's fine. I can tell you, though, I'm only looking for maybe 1 or 2 properties. I do have several appointments later on this week to look at a couple other properties, pretty much with the similar type of structure in mind. And I can tell you, if I happen to purchase one of these other properties, then my offer will not stand. So I can understand that. So I appreciate that. But if you and I have no problem sleeping on it for sure and think about it and talk about it. But listen, let me know first thing in the morning, because I do have appointments that I'm going on later in the afternoon. Please let me know first thing in the morning if you'd like to proceed or not. And what's going to happen is that is what's called fear of loss. That they might now think about it. They've been trying to sell the house for what? 175 days. So then you give them an offer on the table that they could get cash in their hands, and then they could have the relief of the debt off their back and put it on somebody else, and they could move on. And then they're going to think about it when, what's there to think about? I mean, what if they had an offer for, they owed 100, they owe 90, it's worth 100. What if they had an offer coming in for 95,000? They had to come to the table with $5,000 to pay realtor commissions. They'd probably either, what would they do? They'd probably come up with it. I don't know. But the bottom line is now they get to get cash, and they get to get out of the debt relief. So, let's say they say yes. And they say, and you ask them the question, and you show them the opportunity there, and of what you could do, and you say, well, listen, if you accept all this and we agree on it and we agree on everything, how fast would you like to move? And then shut up, okay? Don't speak, don't say anything. That's your closing question, okay? You're going to say, how, if we get everything all together here and we agree on everything, how fast would you like to move? And they're going to say, well, hey, man, I'd move tomorrow if you can get this thing done. Say, great. Pull out your paperwork, pull out your contract, and then you can start writing up the contract right there on the spot. Okay. Now, let's talk about opening up escrow. Now, let's go back real quick. The example. Property is worth 100. Let's talk about structure of how we do it. Property's worth 100,000. Or let's say it was listed on the market for 100,000. They owe 90,000. They want $2,000. The payments on the mortgage, PITI, is $650. So, what you do is sitting and talking to these guys and say, listen, your house, is worth 100. You had it on the market for 100. You owe 90. You have maybe 10,000. By the time you pay all the fees and stuff, you're going to be left with at or nothing. Well, I'll give you $2,000 cash at closing. We will buy the property subject to the existing $90,000 loan, meaning that we'll continue to make payments for over the 3-year period to that loan for the payments of $650 a month. And they go, great. And you sign them up. Now you have the contract. Now you're going to open up escrow. Okay? Now what you want to do is I would go sit down and talk to the escrow officer, and I'd sit down and I'd give her the contract and I'd explain all the information to her in the contract so she understands it completely. Okay, so your escrow officer is going to need, and they'll probably call up the seller for the existing note and deed of trust that they can fax over, or if it's in the county record, she can probably pull that as well. But she's going to create another note, and she's going to wrap that existing loan so the servicing company can service that loan and make payments directly to their bank and have everything audited for you. Now, escrow officers do it. Now we use Security Title, which is a branch of Fidelity National Title, which is one of the largest title companies in the entire country. In whatever city you're in, I'm sure there's a Fidelity National Title or a large title company that you can talk to them about doing a subject to wrap and having it serviced with a servicing company. And I'm sure they've done tons of them, especially in this market. There's a lot of transactions like this being done with seller financing. All right. Now, how to sell the deal. Step number 5 is opening escrow. We just talked about that. Step number 6, selling the deal. Now, what you want to do now is now you have it set up. You're basically buying the property for $92,000, $2,000 cash, $90,000 you're taking over the mortgage, and then there's closing costs, right? That's your contract price. Now you're going to turn around and sell the deal. So what you want to do is you want to post an ad on Craigslist and Backpage, and you want to emphasize seller financing. So you want to say, buy this beautiful house. You can show pictures on there if you'd like of the house. No credit, no qual, $12,000 down. So what's going to happen is people are going to start calling you and inquiring about the house. And you can you don't have to put all the pictures up, but if you get a bunch of good pictures, we use Picasa, which is a Google application. You can get that, but we upload pictures to Picasa, and you can actually share a link with that, and then you can see a whole album of all the house pictures of the particular house. So now someone's going to call off that, and you're going to say, listen, it's $12,000 down. There's seller financing in place. There's no banks that are needed, and you can go do a drive-by in the house. If you'd like, I can have an appointment with you to come look at the house if you'd like. And some of the best things to do is what we've done is, especially if the seller is living there, it becomes a little bit more difficult. If the property's vacant, it's a lot more easier, of course, because then you can have access to the property and show the property as much as you want. But when you are talking to the seller and negotiating, you just want to let them know and say, listen, I'm going to have my partner come by, maybe an appraiser is going to come by, a couple of my contractors look at some of the stuff on the property, so I'm going to be bringing some people over to come look at the house. When's the best time for me to do that? And they'll give you some times where you can come and look at the property, or you can say, listen, I need Saturday from 1 to 4 where I can have access to the house. I'm going to bring everybody over and look at the house. And what you want to do is schedule maybe everybody for a Saturday to come over and look at the property from the calls off your Craigslist and Backpage ad. And then, obviously, the first one to bring that writes up a contract that can put the $12,000 down will get the deal. So now what you're going to do is you're in another way to get people calling off to market the property and selling the property is Craigslist and Backpages. Has talked about that. You can put signs around the particular neighborhood. Don't put it in front of the house, of course. Don't put it on the corner, but put around that specific vicinity of where it's at, emphasizing must sell, house must sell, seller financing, no banks needed. And then just put that and put your phone number. And people will call because they're looking for houses in that specific area. You can just get a house for sale. Must sell fast, seller financing in place, minimal down, and people will call you. Another thing you can do is you can put an ad in your local newspaper, similar to your Craigslist ad. It's just getting the phone to ring with people looking for seller financing and looking for low down houses. Okay, now you're going to show the property, and you're going to get the contract. So let's say you have someone, they're well qualified, they like the area. You'll know by talking to them that they're really serious about buying the property. And what you can do is you can have them drive the neighborhood and look around and have them look at it if they really like the neighborhood, and they can verify that they have the $12,000 in funds. Then what I would do is schedule an appointment to have them come see the property or bring them in on that Saturday. Okay, so now what you want to do is, now that they say, okay, I like the property, I want to buy it, you would do another purchase contract with them, the same residential real estate purchase contract you get from your board of realtors there. Write up that contract, and what you're going to do is now you're going to have basically 2 different contracts. Okay, and now what you can do is you can basically assign, you give the contract now to your escrow officer, and what she can do is she can do an assignment or a nominee from the buyer to your new seller. Okay, I mean from the seller to your new buyer. My fault. So there basically is, it's going to be, you're going to have a contract right there, and it's going to say in the contract, it's going to say buyer. It's going to say your company and or assigns. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to be able to assign your contract, your purchase contract, to the new buyer for a fee, and that fee in this scenario would be $10,000. For an example, you have a $100,000 property, they owe $90,000, they only want $2,000, $650 payments. So think about it. They're going to come in with $12,000 down. They're going to pay the closing cost, and then you are going to get the $10,000. Now, this can all be done extremely fast, real fast. I mean, you could get a contract on a property very quickly, pull the title report, get all the documents needed within a couple days. You could put it on Craigslist, put an ad in the paper, put signs out in the front yard. You can have people calling in. You verify which one is real, which one's motivated, that really wants to purchase a property. Have them drive by it, and then you turn around, show them the property, and then write up the contract and literally go to closing. There's no appraisals needed if you don't want to. You don't have to go through all inspection periods and all that type of stuff. They have seller financing in place. There's no banks to go through or credit qualifications or anything like that. But basically, you can literally turn this in a matter of a week and a half to 2 weeks, 30 days easy, all day long. So that's why I love doing these transactions. All right. So now, show the property, get the contract, you can assign the property for $10,000, and then you go to closing, and then you collect your check. Now, think about this. You've marketed for the buyer, you went and got the contract, you overcame your fear, you're excited, you went in, you talked to them, negotiated everything, opened up, did the whole deal, sold the property, and then you got your $10,000 check. How do you feel? I mean, really, how do you feel? You did it. You got your first $10,000 check. All I know is this. My first check I ever made in May of 2003 for $11,000, I think it was $8, that did it. Sealed the deal for me. I mean, I was ecstatic. I mean, like the same thing it did for Christina and Josh Vicia in their case studies interview. Same thing it did for Matt in their case. Like these other people I'm working with. The exact same thing it did for them. The thing is that once you get your first check, it will, like I said last week, solidify in your bones that this thing does work 100%. And that is my goal, to help you get your check as fast as humanly possible. This is a great method, because there's tons of people out there that have properties with little or no equity, and there's tons of people out there looking for properties that cannot qualify, and they want to purchase a property for themselves to live in or for investment purposes. All right, it's easy. I mean, it's not, like I said, once you do one transaction, you go, well, that was not rocket science. That was fairly simple. All right, now, doing all this, you might run into obstacles. Right? Some things might come up that I didn't cover here in this, hour long, whatever. But things will come up. And when things come up, how are you going to handle them? And see, here's a quote I want to read to you. It's from Ross Perot. It's on quitting. Most people give up just when they're about to achieve success. They quit on the 1-yard line. They give up the last minute of the game, 1 foot from winning a touchdown. See, if you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich, there's a story in there about how a gold miner was 3 feet from one of the largest gold veins ever discovered in the history of America. And he gave up. He sold all his equipment. He sold all his stuff. And he said, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. This is ridiculous. It doesn't work. Probably friends and family and relatives are going, what are you, nuts? Are you digging gold? You're not going to find anything. You spent all this money on all this equipment. You're digging down. You're not going to find a thing. So he sold it all for pennies on the dollar. Someone came in, did a little bit of research, went over 3 feet, dug down, and hit the biggest gold vein ever. Now, imagine if you were that guy that sold it for pennies on the dollar. How do you think you'd feel? It's like winning the lottery and then losing the ticket. It would be terrible. It would be just terrible. See, and that's what I can tell you. Quitting is a decision that you make. It's a decision. You get to a point, and because guess what? It's not all going to be just easy. Everything's just not going to flow. It's a test. And see, you're going to get to a point, you're going to hit an obstacle, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to be at a point of making a decision. You're going to be worn out. You're going to say, oh, I sent a bunch of letters out. I made offers. People are motivated. I don't know. It doesn't work. I sent out 100 letters. I put out bandit signs. My family thinks I'm crazy. This doesn't work. No, it does work. The thing is, what happens is you haven't worked hard enough. See, it does work. See, I know it works, so it's easy. So I know how to get a deal because I've done so many of them. But there was a point when I didn't know I could get a deal. I was out, when I first started, I was taught not to get people to call me. I was taught to go out and knock on doors. That's what I was taught. Get a list of people in foreclosure, go knock on their door, and see if they want to sell your house. So I said, okay. I went in the car. I pulled all the map of all the things on Yahoo Maps. I printed it all out. This was before the iPhone or GPS or anything. And I started in 2003, and I started driving around, and I started knocking on doors in the heat of 112 degrees. Thank God I was listening to Napoleon Hill to motivate me because it was crazy. And guess what? Door after door after door. You know what it's like knocking on doors and people have dogs barking and chasing after you? People slamming the door in your face. Guy pulled a gun on me, get out of here, screaming, get out of here, But guess what? I did it. I'm not telling you to do that. That is nuts. I wouldn't put that pain on anybody. But guess what? I was so persistent, and I was so determined, and I was so motivated, and I didn't know it could work. And I knocked on doors. I didn't knock on 50 and go, oh, I knocked on 50 and it didn't work. I couldn't find someone that wouldn't buy. No. I knocked on 50, and guess what? I said, I got to knock on 50 more. And I knocked on 50 more. I said, I got to knock on 50 more. I got to knock on 50 more. And I don't know how many doors I knocked on before I got my first deal, but you know what? My knuckles were bleeding from knocking on so many doors. All I'm telling you is this. Quitting is a decision. If you decide to quit, you're going to basically be exactly where you are today. And if you don't like where you're at today, then two things have to happen. One, you either just decide to stay where you're at and just go, I'll just be where I am just for my life and just deal with it. Or two, things have got to change. And for things to change, you've got to change. And for things to get better, you've got to get better. And that's all I'm saying. So the bottom line is this, is that quitting is a decision. Now, don't listen to this podcast, download my book, read all this information, get excited about it, yay, and don't do anything. Take massive action. It takes hustle and persistence and never quitting to get the results. Because once you get the results, then guess what? You'll get it, and you know you can do it, and I don't care what your friends, family, relatives, coworkers, anybody tells you, you can say, you know what, I've got a check. And they're going to say, hey, you making any money yet doing that real estate thing? Yeah. I just made a $10,000 check, thank you. And that will shut them up real quick. Now, next episode, I told you we have this incredible gentleman that's going to be talking about exactly real estate market predictions, and he's going to go in depth about it, and I'm super excited for you to listen. So make sure you subscribe, go into iTunes, subscribe into iTunes, and for this next episode, I'm telling you, it's going to knock your socks off. It's going to be super exciting, and I've been trying to set up this interview for a while now, and I know you're absolutely going to love it. And all I can say is this: don't quit. Don't quit, please. Just don't quit. Because quitters never win, and winners never quit. And I know it's a cliche, but it's true. Don't be a loser. Be a winner, and don't quit. Now, if you want, you can go to my, so I don't forget, go to flip2freedom.com. I have all this information explained in a book about how to do this. Exactly. Everything right here that I talked about, if it's overwhelming, you're going, oh my gosh, I need to write it down or whatever, just go to flip2freedom.com, and you can download this book for free. All you can do is put your email in there, and I will email you this report for free. And you can listen to all the other podcasts on there, and I greatly appreciate you listening, and I will see you next week. So until then, I wish you ultimate success in your real estate investing career, and I'll look forward to your comments and calls, and God bless.